When you grow up, whether you realize it or not, you begin to develop a cosmology of the world you live in. This is what makes some of us afraid of the idea of ghosts. It's so scary because it breaks all the rules of reality that makes us feel safe. The walls must be constructed in order for the personality to exist. Of course, the know-it-all will always laugh at these experiences because without a shadow of a doubt, there's no way that it can be possible. So does that mean it's not possible? Or is it just a matter of cosmology? The issue is that the agnostics are not aware that they have developed a subconscious viewpoint of reality that then leads to the suppression of occult faculties. This video will break down a viewpoint of man that has been passed down through the esoteric orders that belongs to an ancient tradition. This knowledge was hidden for two main reasons: for power, and to halt the psychic shifts in man that ultimately lead to cataclysm. The modern scientific viewpoint of man is that he is an evolutionary process that developed through random chance, that he came from monkeys and that he is a physical being of matter or atoms, that Earth was developed through rocks colliding into one another and then somehow water came to form on this rock and then intelligent life begins to randomly develop. When talking about these subjects, you'll run into a lot of different people who'll say, why does it matter? Who cares about our cosmology? The answer is because it limits how you view yourself, which then limits your personal power. Most who belong to the cosmology of the modern day use the word I in every other sentence. I did this, or I see what you're saying. What is I? I is but a point of consciousness. You are singling out your consciousness to an ego. The esoteric order didn't necessarily see man in the same way, but we'll get to that. Many modern occultists still belong to the globe model, and it really doesn't make that much sense when you think about it. Why would ancient beliefs about how man's mind being intimately integrated with reality have any place on a globe Earth sci-fi cosmology? Look, I'm not Christian, but magic only works in a God-created universe, and I can explain that quite logically. That means all psychic phenomena, but one step at a time. If you're new to this, or if you're one of these know-it-all agnostics that thinks this stuff is just New Age BS, then let's just take a sec to cover something we're all familiar with: dreams. It's pretty simple. Let's just treat it like you're a beginner, okay? You just walked in on a book, but this book speaks to you. It's a lesson about the astral plane, but it's not just about what it is or how to visit, its inhabitants or its phenomena, but it's also a theory or a viewpoint of reality, a cosmology. That man is but a micro of the macro, as above, so below. Now, I think we can all relate to dreams. We have all at least had a dream, some more than others. Some people as they get older start to lose the ability to dream. Science has yet to accurately explain what dreams are. You can think that it's just chemicals going off in the brain, but the truth is that there's different levels of dreams. Like I said, most people begin to lose their ability to recall dreams, and it's mostly because their dreams are a reflection of how their consciousness behaves in the material realm. If you are asleep here, then you are asleep there. We will explain more in a moment, but for the most part, there are different scales to dreams. There are blurry dreams, extremely vivid dreams, and then there are dreams with characters that seem to have intelligence, sometimes beyond the dreamer themselves. The detail of a lucid dream can never be forgotten once experienced. So we must ask ourselves, what cosmology do dreams fit in? A world of randomness and chemical combustion? Or the cosmology of the esoteric orders? If you don't know what I mean by esoteric orders, I mean throughout the last 500 years or so, there has been a revival of ancient knowledge throughout a variety of different mediums. Some may say, oh, well, this was by design or some type of trap, but I would argue that the truth is, consciousness is consciousness. One can experience this truth for oneself by development of the higher faculties. It's interesting, because many who have tried psychedelics have been shot into higher dimensions of the astral, especially DMT. I'd like to see Joe Rogan explain how psychedelics work on an isolated globe Earth, random combustion, physical evolution cosmology. The shamans know that these are great spirits that cause these visions, and the spirits belong to this esoteric cosmology that this video is about to unveil. This argument isn't new either, it's the argument for duality. Does man have a soul, or is he just a material physical body? This is a huge philosophical argument, and so is the idea that consciousness and reality require each other. If a tree falls and no one is there to hear it, did it make a sound? In the esoteric tradition, reality is but a product of what is occurring on the higher realms. That man is a series of different bodies existing on different planes. We all know the physical body which belongs to the physical plane, but there are more planes and more bodies. This video will be useful for the beginning occultists, or for those with constricting belief systems that need a bridge into the mind of a completely different cosmology. The earliest esoteric orders was that of Pythagoras, if he was a real person. But the story goes that he would require silence for years. The neophyte must not even speak, and only then would Pythagoras unveil the deepest secrets. People would train for decades to receive the information that is about to be presented, and that's not to say that this is truth or that you need to praise this information or anything. It's an attempt to show how much we have complicated our minds to the point where it's become almost impossible to understand the knowledge of the ancient mystery schools. The secret, or whatever, is that man is not just one body. He is made up of multiple bodies, but you must remember them or develop them. You have to send them consciousness per se. These bodies are layered, where the physical plane is a result of all the higher planes, or a better way to think of it is inner planes. Open any book on magic and what does it teach? How to discipline your mind, usually through meditation or through altered states of consciousness. As you begin to do this, you become aware of different senses. Some easily have access to the faculty of visualization, but I was surprised to find out when I was younger that not everyone possesses the faculty to the same degree. For example, do you have the ability to recall one's face with great detail? Do you have the ability to recall vivid pictures of objects, or rooms or environments with keen detail? Then you may have the natural gift of clairvoyance, but in most cases, it's just the sense of vision. Each body has what we call senses. Thoughts and emotions belong to these higher bodies. We use these bodies on a day-to-day basis, but only certain aspects of them, and they are mostly subconscious or unconscious and are constricted to certain patterns. Now, agnostics say they don't know, but I don't think that's an honest representation. People are not truly being honest with themselves. Most agnostics belong to the cosmology of randomness. We were all raised with these belief systems in the schools. We are taught that the universe came into existence through randomness, a Big Bang. Then we're taught that the Earth and the Moon are both but random coincidences in a random universe of colliding rocks. Many choose to believe that they have some purpose, yet contradict themselves by believing in the mainstream globe cosmology. Astral projection does not work on a globe Earth NASA cosmology. That's one of the problems that I noticed when you look up astral projection videos on the internet. Either one, they scare you with sleep paralysis, which we'll go over, or two, they talk about spirituality from a globe Earth Big Bang perspective of reality. The astral works based on planes of consciousness. Okay, I would argue that magic and psychic abilities only exist in a realm with a godhead, meaning man, mind, and reality are all integrated into one on the highest levels of existence, meaning that reality is but a conscious creation in the higher realms. These abilities only work in which mind has a superiority to matter, meaning mind came before matter. We say mind over matter all the time in a variety of situations, yet seem to be completely against the actual concept of mind over matter. Aliens, or the idea that beings from other terrestrial planets can fly in spaceships and come to Earth, has only been believed for the past 100 years. It belongs to the cosmology of NASA and the Big Bang. They are not physical beings, but spiritual beings from other realms. Aliens on the globe Earth cosmology doesn't really make sense because most aliens possess psychic abilities or they become spiritual gods at one point in their evolution. None of this can be possible unless reality and consciousness are somewhat integrated with one another. You have to understand, in the Big Bang globe Earth cosmology, consciousness is just a random accident. It happened after matter. Therefore, the art of astral projection belongs to the cosmology of the ancient occultists, which has nothing to do with spinning globes. There are many different systems when it comes to laying out exactly the divisions of the universe, but in the most modern English occult system we have, this is how we would explain it. So we all have heard about astral projection, but what does that even mean? Most of the astral projection info on the internet is either marketed as a way to leave your body and experience lucid dreams, or as a way to experience sleep paralysis or something fearful having to do with demons. Astral projection is the art and skill of projecting one's consciousness in the waking state into the astral plane. Okay, so now we get to the subject of the video, the astral plane. Let's start with the bottom of our reality, the physical realm, which is our day-to-day life. Now in the occult, this is just the physical plane, or the material plane. It has nothing to do with modern-day flat earth society or any other shills who try to lay out this realm as some material existence. The physical plane is a result of the higher planes. In a way, the physical realm is the farthest from the truth, as you're not seeing the true hidden attributes that are responsible for the final creation. The physical plane is the grossest, or the densest out of all the other planes. As you go higher in dimension, you begin to become less and less gross, and forms become more fluid. The next realm after the physical plane is the ether plane. This can be seen as the bridge between the physical and the astral. All objects contain a double, you could say, and you'll have to excuse me as our modern language does not have words for what I'm attempting to describe. The visuals are here for assistance, but we must remind you to search for double meaning. All objects contain an etheric double, which is basically its energy field. It's also a bond for the astral components to an object. Let's take a human as the obvious example. You have the physical body, then the etheric energy field that then attaches to the astral body. This etheric energy field is a body, as it can be controlled and manipulated through consciousness. It isn't just humans. All objects have an energy field and an astral component containing the memory or history of that object. We can go over that in a bit, but for the most part, I want to emphasize how each plane is somewhat a product of the one before it. That is very important, as it goes back to my point on how magic only works with this occult cosmology. Otherwise, without the theory, one cannot properly perform this art to his advantage. Belief and perspective of reality do have an effect on magic. The more open-minded one is, the more results they will experience in these occult arts. The physical plane is a product of the etheric, which then is a product of the astral, which then is a product of the mental planes, which then is a product of the Godhead. You can make physical changes on the physical plane by manipulating the etheric. You can make changes in the etheric realm by manipulating the astral. And by manipulating the higher planes, you have access to manipulating and causing changes on all planes. Let's use a chair for an example. A chair exists in the physical realm as a physical object that you can sit on. Now the astral can be seen as all the possibilities or different types of chairs that could possibly exist, the imagination. Then we have the mental plane of the chair, which is the base archetypal attributes of that object, the blueprint for something to sit on. Then it merges back with the Godhead. Christians resist this information because they believe it has to do with demons or something. That's not necessarily the case. Yes, this power will reveal things hidden, but that doesn't mean a tool or faculty within itself is evil. Are there evil people using it? Undoubtedly. The only reason more good people aren't using it is because they aren't aware that it exists. The astral realm is a fundamental component to the way our reality functions. We as humans deserve the right to explore our own consciousness and to learn and develop these faculties that have been lost in the modern day. The ability of clairvoyance and astral vision are useful skills and should be practiced as an art or an instrument. But no, the fearful interpret this ability as opening a portal to demon communication. There is demon communication happening whether you realize it or not. Negativity itself can be a demon. These psychic abilities simply show what is hidden beyond the material realm. Are we to conclude that the occult is all but fantasies of a madman? Or that the occult is nothing but demon worshippers? That the ancients were just fanatics? There was a reason that the mystery schools were developed, and it was to hide special abilities of man. If we realized what we are, then each person would have access to a divine power. That power was in conflict with the ruling church, and so it was controlled. They created the religions as it is practiced today. It was based on true ancient spiritual principles from the mystery schools that then had to be accessed through a certain doorway under specific conditions. Heaven is a specific realm on the astral. Hell is a lower realm in the astral. We go through our lives taking in a variety of different beliefs throughout our lifetime, and the ones we hold on to the most, or the beliefs that we focused on the most, is what gets transferred to the astral. Consider this to be in comparison with dreams. as it is the same realm. As people grow older, if they do not keep these skills in check, they begin to lose the ability to recall their dreams. This can be because the astral is a reflection very similar to that of the physical realm they are currently experiencing. They become a part of the matrix, you could say, as they become asleep and follow similar patterns of consciousness. The lack of curiosity of internal sensations is what leads to a stagnant dream life. A child is one who usually experiences the most fantastical dreams, and it's because their bodies are exploring many different planes of consciousness and creating a variety of different imaginative realities. Now, on each of these planes, there are different divisions. The grossest, or the lowest vibration of the astral plane, is the lower astral. This is where lower vibrational thoughts and negative ideals are created on this level. The ideas of hell or even patterns of the material realm can be reflected onto this lower astral, which is but a reflection of the physical. This is where dreams most of the time take place in the individuals who are asleep in the material plane, meaning they are void of curiosity. The middle astral is where the imagination really takes place in its fullest form. Imaginative dreams, fantasies, and all sorts of endless possibilities take place here. There is a balance between negative and positive forces, and this is where most of our dreams take place. A better way to say this is that we actually are living multiple bodies at once, or multiple lives at once. We have another life on the astral, and as you begin to practice the art of astral projection, the more you will recall about this other life that you have as an astral being. You have learned many things there. This is not just the imagination, but it is the collective unconsciousness that connects all archetypal concepts into a fluid-like reality that can be experienced with great lucidity. Here is one of the major first mind blows for the occultist. You begin exploring your consciousness. You travel the etheric realms locally, and then you travel as far as you can astrally. And at the beginning, this is usually just a representation to what you see in your day-to-day life. So you may astral project and be in your neighborhood or whatnot. But there comes a time once you travel so far outside of the etheric and lower astral planes that you begin to open a door that will open you to something that's actually outside of your consciousness. It's like you're searching as far as you can inside of yourself and you reach a door that actually leads to a universe that exists on its own, without you and with beings that inhabit it that seem to possess more intelligence than that of the conscious viewer themselves. This is what is happening on psychedelics. The shaman or modern psychonaut is shot up into the higher astral, and usually the plant or man-made substance has a consciousness of its own that then is manipulating the experience to assist or punish the user. I've heard of datura stories where people have experienced shared visuals. These experiences are inner experiences, but they translate outside of ego, which is what makes these experiences so shocking. You basically die and experience higher dimensions of consciousness. It's like the feeling of going back home. It's a similar thing with astral projection. Be careful exploring too much, as there is a reason why you are here on the physical plane. This knowledge is of the utmost importance, but one must not devote all their time to astral matters. The true mark of a magician is mastery over the elements or fundamentals of reality. The easiest way to begin to connect with the astral is through meditation and keeping a journal. This will influence dream recall and eventually will lead to lucid dreaming. Lucid dreams are not technically astral projection because in astral projection, the consciousness must experience all the way throughout, no falling asleep involved. If one was to start writing in a journal of their dreams daily, even if nothing, just write nothing, then sooner or later, you will be writing pages. Just keep thinking about it before you go to bed. You can influence lucid dreams in many ways, but this is more of a breakdown on how the astral plane works and how to access it consciously. We have fire, water, air, and earth. Akasha being spirit. Fire and water being higher elements, and air, the distribution between these higher principles, all coalesce into the element earth or gross material. In order to safely project into the astral plane, one must learn to come in contact with these basic principles. It seems silly to one who is coming from the modern worldview, but these elements are an attempt to classify all manifestation into their basic attributes. The homunculus legend of a man created within a jar is a perfect example of occult hidden knowledge. Paracelsus was encoding a secret esoteric teaching, which was how to create another man, or body, in which you can travel into the astral realm. This body is called the body of light. More to be explained. In the oldest book of wisdom, the Tarot, something has already been written about this great mystery of the elements. The first card of this work represents the magician pointing to the knowledge and mastery of the elements. On this first card, the symbols are the sword as the fiery element, the rod as the element of the air, the goblet as that of the water, and the coins as the element of the earth. This proves without any doubt that already in the mysteries of yore, the magicians were destined for the first tarot card, mastery of the elements having been chosen as the first act of initiation. Akasa is the so-called quintessence of the 4 other grossly elements. Each element has 2 polarities, an active and passive, or positive and negative. The principle of fire. According to the Oriental scriptures, the first element born from Akasa is believed to be the element of fire. The basic qualities of the fiery principle are heat and expansion. In the Bible we read, "There shall be light," light coming from fire. Each element has 2 polarities, thus fire has a good and an evil side. We have fire that can be healing, such as the light from our sun that gives energy and fuel to all living beings. Or the negative, which can be destruction and burning. The principle of water. Water also comes from Akasa. It's the same as fire in that each element has a life-giving principle and a destructive dividing principle. The basic qualities are coldness and shrinkage. Water can also be seen as darkness in contrast to the fire element. Water is required for life to live, but it can be dark, cold, and desolate, such as deep in the ocean. The principle of air. Another element derived from Akasa is that of air. The initiated do not regard this principle as a real element, but they grant it as role of a mediator between the fiery and watery principles, becoming a neutral equilibrium. Through the active and passive elements of fire and water, life has now become animated. When we speak of fire, water, and air, they are not to be regarded as ordinary elements such as physical fire or water in a glass or the air we breathe, but in the case of the elements, they are universal qualities of all elements concerned. They are the basic principles of life: expansion, constriction, electric, magnetic, positive, negative, and balance and animation. The element of earth. It was said that air does not represent a true element, and the same is true for earth. Out of the interaction of the 3 aforesaid elements, the earthy principle has been born as the last element, which by its specific quality, the solidification, involves all 3 elements. It is this elemental earthly quality that allows us to put a concrete form on all of the aforesaid elements. The action of the 3 elements have been limited with the result of space, measure, and weight and time having been born. The reciprocal action of the 3 elements together with that of the earth, thus, has become tetrapolar, so that the earthy principle may be labeled as a 4-pole magnet. This is the subjective becoming objective. The realization this element represents, it shall be. Now, one can then connect to each element and gain the approval of each archangel that resides within the spirit of each element. These fundamentals can be used in magic for creating a second man, or the homunculus, the astral light, in which you can transfer your consciousness to and create a body that not only can be manipulated in first person, but can be assigned its own individual consciousness. This astral light can be used to create a variety of astral forms, but we must wait, in time. There's still much to learn about this delightful plane that is well known to the elite mages but hidden and mysterious to the neophyte. You see, the reason people are experiencing sleep paralysis is because sometimes they use methods that force an astral experience when they're not ready. This forced astral separation can cause a shock to the system, and sometimes the user is not conscious throughout the projection. They are practicing repeating visuals or some type of exercise to influence the third eye, and at one point, they fade out and wake up again once this astral separation is happening. There are many variables, but a good conclusion would be that these are shadows that have yet to be faced, or fears manifesting themselves immediately. I know for a fact that these forms can be changed simply by the power of imagination, but in some individuals, it's so shocking to be out of your body and being faced with mental thought forms face to face. They are very real, but at the same time, they do not have power over you. One way to protect yourself is through ritual. If you're going to learn to project into the astral, then you need to consider yourself a magician. It seems crazy, right? But only to those who aren't educated in such matters. For once you begin to become disciplined in this art, the magician will learn for himself that there are methods to influencing events on the material realm simply through an astral magic ritual itself. Magic, again, is just a tool. Whether you're aware of it or not, you do astral magic every day. It's not conscious magic, but to think and to do is a process of the higher manifesting into the lower. Your personality, ego, pursuits, and goals are a product of astral magic. But there are many variables to consider in terms of what will work based on your sphere of availability. You can do magic for a car, but is it really in your sphere of availability? Like, are you in a reality where that's even possible? Or if you wanted to be the boss of a big company, could you really hold that position? Eventually you would just get fired or lose the car because A plus B equals C. Have you built up a structure in which your will can manifest in the physical plane? It's not just snapping your fingers and forcing something to happen, which is a common misunderstanding of magic. If you know magic, why don't you just make yourself rich? Is a common response from those who know nothing about magic. That's because just like any science, there are rules and regulations. In order to protect yourself on the astral realm, you need to know how to create a tetrapolar magnet. A magnet that is blessed by sacred angels and constructed upon sacred geometry. This knowledge of the Godhead will keep you protected against any demonic or negative beings that you may encounter. We will cover everything more in detail, but for now, let's continue with a brief summary. What will you encounter in the astral realm? Well, as was said at first, it is like you're exploring a representation of your subconscious or a mirror realm of the reality you experience here. But there are weird alterations or nuances that obviously make it more fantastical, but there comes a point where you enter a doorway, or a realm that seems to be a doorway from within yourself that actually leads to a universe even farther outside of you. Even grander in scale that has its own intelligences and life forms that seem to have their own existence. One of these beings are called shadow beings that linger on the etheric and lower astral planes. These beings could be suppressed fear that has gained intelligence most likely from a host. These are negative astral parasites that are created by us from our emotions and suppressed experiences. They continually feed off negative emotions and become more independent and powerful as they grow in age. The trouble you encounter and the dire things that old maid occultists warn you against all the times in the past when you read about astral projection is really nothing but this difference that exists between the different planes and what happens when you try to act on the inner planes the same way that you act on the earth physical. Let's just say some new age thought practitioner got to the astral plane and it scared the wits out of her. So instead of trying to find out what was wrong, she labeled it as hell and warned everyone to stay away. On the inner planes, you have to act in accordance with the laws that govern that plane, which laws are different than the laws that govern the physical plane. And until you learn these laws and move by them, you're going to find yourself in a very peculiar position when you try to do something. Things manifest instantly in the astral, especially emotion. You can't treat the astral plane as you do the physical world. That's why many run into issues when they first begin to practice. But there are also positive guides. There are intelligences that have been following you your whole life. These are called daemons or genii. They're not all negative, as they are aspects to how we think. We perceive ourselves as a single unit of consciousness, but most of our thoughts and inspirations are not even our own, but a product of these astral intelligences or guardian angels that have helped and guided us along our path here in the physical realm. There are elementals, which are the astral manifestations of the elements themselves in a variety of different forms. Their main forms include the salamander of fire. In the air element, they are sylphs. In the water element, they are called mermaids or undines. In the element of earth, they are gnomes or goblins. These being the connection with the astral plane and the earthly elements. The astral plane is host to the deceased ones who, having left the physical plane, are abiding in the corresponding density degree according to their spiritual maturity, which is designated by various religions as heaven or hell. The adepts only see symbols therein. There are god forms, demons, and powerful archetypal forms. Not recommended for the beginner at all. This might sound crazy, but these experiences are quite real, and honestly the best way to describe it is like a psychedelic experience where a booming voice is kind of overpowering the entire realm itself. If you reach this point, you are very far from home and starting to reach some very far doorways. You don't want to open a door that you can't close, so just keep it simple for now and avoid the subject matter. You aren't likely to just randomly encounter a god or a demon unless you specifically go looking for it. Ancient spirits are an entirely other topic. I wouldn't worry too much about what you will encounter, you just need to ask yourself, does this interest you? If so, there is a reason and you must follow it with genuine curiosity. The clairvoyant eyes must be guarded with great responsibility. We know the Spider-Man quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." Some may say, well, why do I need to go explore the astral plane? I have everything I need with Jesus. Well, that may be so, but it's more than just exploring willy-nilly and flying around. That's great and all, but like I said, I wouldn't fly too far away if I were you. I honestly don't go far at all. You want to stay low-key and build up your abilities, much like an open-world RPG. Exploring long range before you know what you're doing can get you lost. Gaining skills is an art that can benefit your life, like painting. One with clairvoyant eyes or one who has mastered their astral senses have gained proficiency in a talent that takes much skill and creativity. They say Nikola Tesla had photographic memory or whatever, but it's more likely that he knew how to astral project. Not using the techniques that magicians use, such as the body of light, but simply through his natural ability to simply visualize material objects. It's a very useful skill. Imagine being able to spend hours in the dream realm, in the conscious state, researching and developing skills and talents that you don't have time to do in the physical realm. You could consciously project yourself to a library and read. You could develop blueprints and make plans for a house or building. Or as the ancient magicians figured out, you can directly manipulate physical events through different rituals on the astral realm. A tool can be used for what one wishes to do with it, and in this case, it can cause changes in consciousness and for the pursuit of higher principles. Developing one's body of light so that when the material body passes, there is a vehicle in which the soul can continue to exist. Otherwise, it is replenished and will be reset, making it difficult to build up soul karma. These skills that you develop now in the astral will transfer to your next life. That is why some people have a natural talent for the occult. It's because in a past life, they dedicated themselves to the art of the magus. Not just in a physical sense, but in that they have developed concrete astral forms that then influence the next life, going back to what I was talking about with daemons and genies. These are other forms of yourself that you've experienced in other realms or planes in which you grew the foundations of consciousness. Have you ever had a dream that made no sense or had no parallels to the physical realm at all? Some feel as if they are aliens to this realm, and what I would say is that you could be from a dimension that is much different than this physical plane. The same concepts of aliens still exist in this cosmology. They are just not seen as beings from other terrestrial planets. And as with magic, these beings can be both good and evil. The coin is not one-sided. Now, in order to continue for your visit to the astral plane, mental discipline is of the utmost importance. No one is perfect in real life, but the idea is that you need to be able to shift from your normal human day-to-day mind into the mind of a magus. This is done throughout exercises that should be practiced as an art or an instrument. Other exercises depend on repetition and subconscious programming, which is indeed magic. One should not do magic in order to go to the astral plane. If you do not possess the ability to focus on one thought for an extended length of time, then once you meet more powerful intelligences on the astral, they will have power over you. Now, before we can even begin to constraining the mind to a single thought, we are faced with the most severe challenge of ignoring the physical body. Keeping a single thought form for more than 10 seconds is almost impossible for the average man with no knowledge of the occult. One simple exercise is to focus on a blue square. There's nothing evil, just test your mental faculties and see how long you can hold a visual in your mind's eye. After 10 seconds or so, different thoughts from different subjects will start to come into mind. Earlier events, randomness, or the shape will refuse to stay still, or the colors will change. It is quite endless, but the goal is simple, and you cannot be persuaded otherwise. Hold the blue shape in mind for as long as possible. A timer will be needed. Start with 10 seconds and slowly rise until you get to 1 minute, and then 10 minutes, and then the final goal is 30 minutes. Now at 30 minutes, an event should occur, and it will be quite noticeable, but you will forget who you are for a moment. You will literally become the symbol you were focusing on. This is the goal experience and will get you ready for the astral realm. In order to even get close to that goal, one must first learn to silence the body before the mind. If you can't find comfort in your meditation, you will never achieve this level of focus as it distracts the mind. Ancient India developed many methods to solve this problem. One must pick an asana or a position of rest and hold this position throughout the entire experience. Pick an asana that you will stick to and master before trying other positions. Don't go too difficult like trying the lotus position until you are ready. There are mental exercises that can be done in order to silence different parts of the body. This also can be healing as you are directly manipulating your etheric body with your astral senses. Imagine a golden ball of light as it begins to travel around your body. Just vocally state in your mind that body part that you want to fall asleep or where you want the golden ball to travel to. Now it may seem like, okay, I'm just manipulating my imagination or something, but once you've done this enough and you treat it like an art form, meaning it's a skill, it begins to become something else entirely. The skill of one who paints fences compared to a painter who paints beautiful murals are quite different, no? Well, it's the same with visualization. Some possess a greater degree of realism when they visualize, changing the experience entirely. There will come a time where these visuals can cause real-world effects, like in this golden ball exercise. You will begin to feel intense tingling sensations wherever the golden ball is floating. If you do the same with your chakras, you will begin to feel intense vibrational sensations that are distinct and cause a real effect to the consciousness. Chakra meditation will lead to more frequent lucid dreams and OBEs, but again, these things must be taken one step at a time. Through mantra, one can assist the process of silencing the mind. You can use some famous mantra like Om, or you can literally just make one. Create some type of symbol or word that you want to focus on and turn it into a mantra. Scramble it and create a simplified version. So maybe you want to focus on silencing the mind. Then simplify it as silence, and you can meditate on repeating the word silence. This will kind of create a firewall where now the thoughts have a hard time distracting you because you're already in focus on a single point, the mantra. Some may say, well, how does this apply to me? Well, the occult arts aren't for everyone, but many are interested, and in the modern age it seems that the subject matter is being lost in a new cosmology. The so-called truth community is worried about such fearful matters such as cataclysm, controllers, and parasites, when really we are what contain the power. They control us through these astral methods that I've been discussing, yet many are being controlled simply by giving them that fear. Many want to escape the matrix, and that's great, but how's one going to do that with no money and no power? We all possess the ability to create the life we envision, and it has nothing to do with just asking for material desires through magic. This art form develops the mind in a way that you become in line with the universe, and you could say, become an attractor, or your luck factor goes up. The universe is giving you a helping hand in creating the reality you wish to experience. We all should know by now the powers of creative visualization and attracting material experiences into our lives. This is the New Age revival known as The Secret, which actually really is just a secret distorted as much as it possibly could be. The secret is that mind and reality are integrated. That's why it applies to you. I'm showing you a way to go about this process consciously and with respect, instead of letting external forces rule you. Okay, you're a Christian? Well, the whole Bible is based on the esoteric doctrine. It comes from the tarot. Even the Gnostics were great mystics developed in these basic faculties of mind. There's nothing wrong with strengthening your mind, intellect, and creating a reality that you wish to experience here on the physical realm. Instead of praying to a god for something you need in life, which is magic, why not develop the skills and opportunities that you need yourself using your conscious magic? You're either suffering at the magic of others or the fact that you're ignorant of your own magic. It's a tool, and unfortunately many abuse it, but it is a fundamental art and ancient in its origin, and we must continue to revive its essence to the best of our ability. Now we will assume that you have mastered thought discipline, trained with each element individually, and have achieved deep states of meditation. We will begin with the protection ritual, as it is a great insight into what this experience entails, and how you can protect yourself from the magic of others. Begin with understanding the shape of the pentagram. It is not an evil shape. It is a sacred shape, for it is the quintessence. It is all the elements represented as a whole, and the symbol has been distorted and misused in the modern day. It does not mean Satanism. When the pentagram is facing down, it means all the gross elements are somewhat above akasa or spirit. But when facing up, in its correct form, it represents the true distribution, which is akasa on top and the grossly elements below. Before we learn about the ritual, you must understand what I mean by drawing the pentagram. In the ritual, depending on how you draw the pentagram determines what you are trying to achieve. Are you attempting to invoke a spirit or bring it down to you? Or do you want to banish a spirit? What you will do is with your physical body, you will perform this basic ritual. Start from your left hip, go above your head, continue to the right hip, move to outside your left shoulder, draw across beyond your right shoulder, finish where you began. When you do these motions, use a magical dagger specifically designed for this purpose. You must be able to see a bright blue flame that has electrical energy with extreme visual detail, and you must be able to hold this vision entirely with no breaks or distortions. This is why the basic exercises of thought control were explained at the beginning of the video. Okay, so let's take a break here. I originally recorded this entire series as a single video, but during the editing process, I decided that it may be smarter to just release this in different parts. Some of the visuals were taking more time than I thought, and I just want to make sure that they get the time they deserve. In part 2, we'll go over the most popular protection ritual that can be used for protection on the astral realm. Thank you all so much for the support, and we depend on word of mouth since we've been shadow banned. Many still don't get notifications, so check out our social medias and send us a DM if you have a question. We wish you all the best in these times, and now more than ever we need to focus on the tools that will heighten our state of consciousness instead of bringing it down. All we can hope is that our minds may be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?